World.
2, 1, go.
Man, the clinic discusses their leading candidates for MVP. Siakam is making it hard to move him, and Coach Kidd might be a genius. I'm Rosa Panda. This is Clinic, all NBA podcast. I have the two hooligans with me. JJ, how you living, my friend?
Woo, feeling good. I'm feeling great. What about you two, my guys?
She knows she loves Jay because...
Man, I'm feeling good. John, how you living, my friend?
Another day, another dollar. Let's talk some basketball, boys.
Yeah, let's definitely talk about some NBA basketball. It is good to see you both, but we're missing our homie Sammy right now, who actually went to the game tonight. The Clippers versus OKC. We can't wait to talk to him when we get back. But boys, we have to talk about the game that the Golden State Warriors had with the Chicago Bulls. And the Golden State Warriors ended up winning this game, but that wasn't the news, okay? I know the Warriors have been on a losing streak. I know it's a big deal for the Warriors to get a win. But in the second half, or rather at halftime, they ended up doing a Ring of Honor ceremony celebrating, you know, the time that Jerry Krause had there. So they celebrated Michael Jordan, Tony Kukoc, etc. But one day announced, Jerry Krause, Chicago had an audible, just really loud boo. Boo for Jerry Krause. They ended up showing Thelma, who's the widow left behind, right? And Thelma was just really upset. And his wife was just moved to tears, and it was on the big screen. RJ has a clip right now, completely awful.
Man.
And Jerry Krause, who oversaw Chicago's legendary run of 6 championships between 1991 and 98, died in 2017. And it was just a night that we were supposed to recognize that time. Boys, I want to know what you guys thought about seeing this on live television. What do you guys think?
Jordan never did that move.
Man, like, I know we're trying to keep this show lighthearted and talk about things in a way that's just banter, but for me, this is kind of a really this topic is kind of hard to talk about for me because not only it's not as if Jerry Krause was still alive, right? And he was, you know what I mean? That's one thing to boost somebody who's alive, but he actually passed away in 2017, and to me, that's like the low of the lows. And let's remember that Jerry Krause, if it wasn't for him as the GM, there's a good chance that there wouldn't be 6 championships. He is the reason, a big part of the reason why they built that team. I understand that he wanted to tear it down after the 6th ring. He didn't want to run it back. And I'm sure that the Chicago Bulls fans are upset about that. But come on, guys. To boost somebody that is dead and is also somebody, it's like... And for one thing, it's just basketball. You know what I mean? Like, we're talking about the widow of someone, like the wife lost her husband, and put yourself in her shoes, right? Like, that to me is just, I feel so bad for her, guys. I don't like, and I want to be clear here as well, because I don't think that speaks for all Chicago Bulls fans. I want to say that's probably the minority, and I don't know. I actually didn't listen to the tape. Maybe it sounded like there was a lot more people booing, but I feel like there's always those bad apples for any fan base. I mean, other than the Warriors, because June and JJ think that they're perfect. But no, in seriousness, I mean, you're always gonna have bad fans like that, right? So to me, I think it was awful. Like Bro, like you were saying earlier, this is a moment that you're supposed to honor and remember the time. And like, this is the only Chicago Bulls rings that they have, right? Like, God, they're always looking at like the glass is half empty instead of actually being thankful and grateful for what was given to you. So to me, this is just a big fat L all across the board. Hopefully it doesn't get too much more coverage or traction, but I just, it was a shame to watch from my perspective. I don't know how you guys feel about it.
Yeah, super shameful when you boo a widow when they pitched it to her, in her poor old wheelchair, hyping her up saying, you're going to be greeted during halftime we're gonna commemorate your late husband, and then you're just gonna get a round of applause from the whole stadium, from 20,000 people.
Oh man.
Damn,
And
dude.
then you just get boos. Like, I couldn't even play the soundboard of Tobias crying, guys, because I gotta respect Thelma Kraus. And I know we like to play the blame game. I know sometimes it's not necessary, but gentlemen, John and June, The Last Dance, Michael Jordan. Does Michael Jordan get blamed for this? Does the GOAT get blamed? Because I know that we hold Michael Jordan in high regard. We all know that he's an a-hole. We know that he's a jerk. We see that his previous teammates have said things about him. So I want to pose it to you guys. Is it the GOAT, Michael Jordan's fault, that Thelma Cross
man.
got booed at her quote-unquote home court floor?
I don't know if it was
Go ahead, Ro.
necessarily Michael
Yeah.
Jordan's fault.
Scottie Pippen's
per
fault
se.
for sure. No, I'm kidding.
I think that documentary didn't help. It
No.
definitely didn't help because
Definitely not.
I think history had sort of already forgotten that part of Michael Jordan's era where Jerry Krause wanted to break down that whole thing. I think a lot of people just sort of forgot Jerry Krause's doing in that. And The Last Dance brought it back to light, right? In
Yes.
recent memory. So, I mean, that was only what, like 3 years ago that The Last Dance was aired. So it's just bad timing. I think it's bad timing. And to all the Chicago Bulls fans that booed that night, and it probably is a minority that did, but the fact that it was like audible enough for Thelma to hear it was sad, dude. It's definitely sad. It kind of reminded me of like when Joe Lacob got booed and Chris Mullin had to like stand up for Joe Lacob during his own
Yeah.
ceremony because it was
After
Chris
the
Mullin's
Monte
ceremony.
Ellis trade.
Except it would be like if Joe Lacob was dead, you know, after he traded away Monte Ellis and then got booed. It would have been, it's like so much worse. So much worse.
It's so much worse because like the person can't defend themselves.
Yeah.
They can't speak
Yeah.
up. They can't talk about it. They can't defend themselves. And so to me, it's like the lowest of lows of things to do. And honestly, to talk about The Last Dance just real quickly is that there's a lot of speculation that even though Jerry Krause gets a lot of the blame, I think from an optics standpoint, but there was a lot of people saying that it was Jerry Reinsdorf, the owner, who was really pulling the strings, and Jerry Krause was kind of the scapegoat, right? And so, I mean, honestly, to JJ's point, like, I don't want to say I would put the blame on Michael Jordan per se, but I think there are a lot more than just Jerry Krause as the general manager that you can blame for the Bulls not running it back after winning a 6th championship, right? To break up a team like that, a dynasty like that. But guys, 6 rings. Like, how many teams, NBA teams, are going to say that they've won 6 rings? You can count them on your hands, right? Like, that doesn't happen often. And to win back 3, to win 3 in a row twice, come on, man.
In one era, the
Yeah.
Michael Jordan era, they won 6. Like, that's wild. Like, why not just clap? It's been so long ago, dude.
Yes.
So long ago.
It's
such
a
a
bad
petty-
look if you have Steve Bartman mentioned with Thelma Kraus. And for those that don't know who Steve Bartman is, RJ, you probably know because you're the baseball guru up in this. He's a guy that got death threats after catching the fly ball in the World Series.
Yeah.
So
Jay, do you blame this documentary or Michael Jordan?
So, like I said, Michael Jordan's my GOAT. I think Michael Jordan could share his thoughts about how Cross did the whole situation, but I'm with John. Let people rest in peace. You're the GOAT. You're the greatest of all time, man.
Speaking of Michael Jordan, by the way, too, what are your thoughts on him actually not attending this Ring of Honor? I know Phil Jackson was there. Jordan didn't show up. I don't think Pippen showed up either, right?
Yeah, Pippen didn't
Yeah.
show up.
No.
I don't like that. I
John
think
John blames Michael Jordan for Scottie Pippen not showing up. I know that for a fact.
Yeah, for sure, 100%.
I mean he could do
Absolutely.
whatever. I guess it would have been cool
Yeah.
if he went, but
He should have gone.
he should have gone.
It's fun. Like he's such on a okay. I agree with you. Michael Jordan is my greatest of all time, and that's not going to change. Like basketball perspective, but there are things that you can look at him and think about, like the things that he did off the court and his personality and the way he approached things. Same thing about Kobe, right? But I don't like, man. I agree with you guys. I think he should have showed up. And he can do no wrong. He's put on such a pedestal in Chicago. He literally can get away with murder. That is literally like Michael Jordan, what the city of Chicago means, what Michael Jordan means to the city of Chicago. So,
Yeah, I mean they could have at least waited for the Bulls to play. Shoot, who does he own again?
Utah?
No, Michael Jordan.
Oh, who does he own? He used to own the Hornets, right?
Yeah,
I was gonna say the
Yeah.
Bobcats.
The Bobcats. Yeah, well, they were the Bobcats.
they could
He
have at
doesn't-
least
yeah.
waited, right?
He doesn't own the Hornets
for that
anymore, though.
game, and then he'd
He
have
doesn't
to.
own. Yeah.
I
No,
mean,
he doesn't own the
wouldn't
Hornets
want,
anymore.
like-
He sold his stake.
Oh, he does. Oh, yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
You're
he
right.
sold
Never
his
mind.
stake. Remember? Yeah.
Was that
All good.
before or after he slapped someone upside the head?
Was
Anyway.
that Kelly Oubre? Right?
Yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna move us on, boys. I want to talk about what we think of the MVP ladder so far. So there's rankings that are out right now where Joel Embiid is number 1, and then it goes like this in succession: Nikola Jokic, SGA, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Luka Doncic, and Jason Tatum. So far this season, who is your guys' MVP?
Okay, I'm just gonna say we've said this before, but there's been a pattern of MVP picks being nominated because of narration. So they usually also try to avoid crowning the MVP consecutively unless they made a huge stamp in that league within that year. So because of that, even though I think Joel Embiid does deserve it because he did lose a star in Harden, who has been balling, John's MVP, I don't think they'll give it to him, right? Jokic has already won it twice, and he won the championship last year. So to spice things up, and this is my MVP pick, fellas, it's gonna be SGA. SGA has been
Ooh, okay.
balling.
Ah,
think
I like that pick.
They're an dark horse pick to win it all.
Mhm.
They just lost tonight to the Clippers, but the Clippers have always been in talks in terms of winning that chip, especially with that talent with Kawhi, Paul George, and now Harden playing how Harden's been playing. But I want to give props to SGA because, dude, that guy, how he plays reminds me how old school guards play, which is going to the line. He has a mid-range game, and he's just really talented.
Yeah, SGA is putting up some crazy stats, guys. So 31 a game, shooting 55 from the floor for a guard, 33 from 3, which is average, 5.8 rebounds, 6.3 assists, and 2.3 steals a game, and just under a block. So those numbers are wild, man. And I agree with you. If the Thunder are the number 2 seed right now, behind Minnesota. What's interesting to me about this list is that the one guy that is not on here, but his team is in first seed in the West. He's averaging 26 points, 46% from the field, 38 from 3, 5.4 rebounds, 4.9 assists, 1.3 steals. You guys know what I'm talking about, right? Ant-Man. Like, how is he not on this list? If the Timberwolves, and maybe this is because they don't think the Timberwolves are going to sustain that number 1 seed. That was my first thought, right? But for him not to be on this list is kind of crazy to me. I don't know. Do you guys agree, or do you think that?
Let me piggyback off that, John. What's the adverse correlation to what you just said is, are you guys even further surprised that Rudy Gobert is the favorite to win Defensive Player of the Year again? Given that the fact this dude does not guard positions 1 through 4.
Oh man.
So wait,
Yeah.
but I want to go attack, cover your first
Go ahead.
claim, John, which is that Ant is not on this list. And dude, you are absolutely right. It should always go. The nomination or the favoritism should always go towards the best player on the best team. And for whatever reason, Ant is not on this list. When in fact, Ant balled over the summer during the Olympic/FIBA play.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Why do you think that is then? Like, I'm really curious because I know this is the key. This is a consensus, right? Like made by pundits or experts or whoever it may be. But he's not even in this list at all. I'm not saying that he's a shoo-in to win or he's the favorite, but for him not to be on this list is very surprising to me.
Yeah, it's
Dude,
surprising.
What do you think?
To me too, but I think it's because I honestly think it's because the Timberwolves don't get any respect.
Yep.
Yeah, that's fair.
I just hate to say it, but they're just not like a super sexy team to talk about. And the thing is that like we are all wrong. We're all wrong about the Minnesota Timberwolves, right? No one came in here going into the season saying that the Timberwolves were going to be number 1 in the Western Conference and do things in a sort of dominant fashion on the defensive side. And I think the MVP favors highly offensive players, right? And I don't know if Ant Edwards has that same sort of splash as a Joel Embiid, who's averaging almost 35 points a game and 11 rebounds, or a Nikola Jokic, who's averaging like almost 32 points a game. And then Shea, what is he averaging right now? What did you just say? Like 31 points?
31 a
32?
game. Yeah.
So I mean, I guess it's tough. I know Ant Edwards is doing it like maybe four or 5 points less, but it's just not. He doesn't have that narrative yet, and I don't know if he needs like sort of like a signature game in order for them to get to the top. I think that's what it's gonna take, right, for him to even enter this list, and that's sad because like I would like to see him part of this ballot. Now looking at this list, we have 1 through 6. Who would you like bump off of this? Like, where would you place him? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great question, man.
I mean, because like we have Embiid, Jokic, and Shea. I can't put Ant over them.
I mean, there's for some reason there's 6 people on this list, which is a weird number. So for me, I would just add a 7th and put Ant-Man on here. Like I don't think I would take away anybody because I think they are all deservingly, worthy of the award at this point. I mean, there's no argument to be made against it. I don't think so. I would just add him on here. I just find it weird that typically the best player on the best team still gets. And you're right, bro. Like they're not getting the visibility or the attention because they are the Minnesota Timberwolves. And again, I suspect that they maybe don't, this is also a projection that they don't anticipate the Timberwolves to actually still be at the top of the Western Conference, right? There's like, I think people still think that they're going to fall off. And I don't know if that's going to happen. We're already almost halfway into the season.
Call me crazy too. Like, I know we're talking down on the Minnesota Timberwolves and they don't get love, but I think a huge factor, especially in today's world of social media, it's guilty by association. And when you have Rudy Gobert, where straight up no one respects this dude in the league, and you have players like Westbrook and the Clippers bench laugh at him for airballing, that's not a good look for any NBA fan. And then you have memes and other NBA stars talking about how Carl Anthony Towns has 5 different octaves in how he speaks.
I forgot about that.
You know what I mean? Like he sounds like Michael Jackson.
And then he lowers his voice to like another one. Yeah, I've seen that.
Then he tries to sound like Old Dirty Bastard from Wu-Tang. It's like, he's like faking the funk kind of thing. It's like, oh, these dudes are not about it. The Timberwolves are whack. So it's like an afterthought. not that this pod thinks that, but I think the general public does have that perception, which is these dudes are whack. And then you have like non-exciting players like what both of you said, like Kyle Anderson.
Right.
Like he has that
Slow-mo.
weird, yeah, exactly.
Which isn't
Slow-mo,
like
right?
a great publicized name.
Yeah.
Jay, it's interesting that you bring this up because like I think I never really thought about the likability of the team like being involved in the MVP ballot, but you're right. Like they have to be likable.
Yeah.
And Ant Edwards, to me, if you just took him, he's likable. I think it's just the cast around him, like you said, guilty by association.
Yep.
If I had to pick someone from this list, I didn't want to derail it with the Ant-Man conversation, but if I had to pick someone from this list, I hate to say this,
Oh no.
but it would be Jason Tatum.
Oh.
And I'm okay saying that. I'm okay saying that because he is a Kobe. Kobe is his favorite player of all time. But I think the Celtics are the number 1 seed in the East. I don't think that's going to change unless something happens. I think they're going to end up with the 1 seed. And Tatum is their best player. But I think like looking at the Celtics, he's not only is their best player, but he gets the most like attention in the optics and the news reports on him the most. Even though Jaylen Brown has been playing really well, Derek White has been balling for them. I think he's like a huge X factor for that team. And then you add Drew Holiday, right? Who's I was wrong about Drew Holiday comparing him to Marcus Smart. He's actually a huge difference maker because he's much better offensively than Marcus Smart ever was, and probably the same defensively. So, or you can make a case one is slightly better than the other, right? You could say if you think Marcus Smart's better defender, that's totally fine, but they're comparable. So to me, it's going to be Tatum if the Celtics can remain in the East, top of the East.
John, I was
he's
actually
never won
going
it.
there too. Yeah,
And he's never won it.
that's where I was going with this too. So what I
Yeah.
see on this list is Joel Embiid's won it, Jokic has won it, Giannis Antetokounmpo has won it. Has Luka won it? yet?
Luka has not won it, no. So he's also up there too. But I don't think Dallas is good enough.
So that's the problem with Luka is that I don't think he's gonna finish in like the top 4 or 3 like
yeah.
he needs to, you know,
Right.
without having ridiculous stats. But Jason Tatum will, and with SGA, he was robbed of Most Improved Player last year, and I think if he doesn't win the MVP, that's the award that they'll give to him, is
Good
Most
point.
Improved, which is completely ridiculous because he was already good last year. It's just that he made like a bigger jump this year.
Yeah.
But I think it'll be Jason Tatum's award. But I gotta move us on, boys, to our next topic here. We have to talk about Coach Kidd and what he did to the New Orleans Pelicans. Up by 2 points with 19 seconds remaining, Jason Kidd chose to intentionally foul Zion and send him to the free throw line. And it was a risky move, you know, being up by 2, but he ended up being right because Zion only made 1 of 2. Zion was killing the Mavs up to this point in the game, having scored 29 points, 12 of 17 shooting, and he was only 5 of 9 from the free throw line and missed the first free throw after being intentionally fouled, like I said. Boys, I want to know, did you guys like this move by Coach Kidd in the moment? Okay, we're not talking about the results here. In the moment, did you guys like this move by Jason Kidd?
No.
No, I did not like it either.
No,
too.
absolutely not. I think this is like, to me, this sends a signal to your team that you don't trust them defensively.
Yes.
And you're really, I mean, Zion missed the free throw, but to your point, right? We're talking about, is this a good move at the time? Not the results, obviously. Hindsight is 2020, but like, you're giving the team of 2 free shots with nobody playing defense on them to tie the game, instead of trusting your defense, playing the right way and guarding the 3, making them tie the, like, obviously they won the game. But like, if he made both free throws, Jason Kidd would have gotten grilled. And forgive me, but every time I think of Jason Kidd as a coach, and I know he's been doing well with the Mavericks, like, I just
He got bumped.
When he
No,
got
yeah,
bumped
do you
and
remember
spilled
the
water?
time? Yeah, with the water.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's what I was thinking about. Every time he was with the Bucks, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was the Bucks.
It
Yeah.
was the Bucks, and they caught him on camera like mouthing like, "Hit me, hit me," and I'm just like, "Damn, dude." But no, I don't like it at all. JJ, what do you think?
No, like you hit the nail on the head, which is you don't trust your defense. And Jason Kidd, you're supposed to be the defensive specialist. In the regular season, okay, you might get criticized, but you won, so people are gonna, forget about it. But in the playoffs, you better not do this because we've seen time
No.
and time again where people do the hack a Shaq. Point being, Shaq, and that's my next example. And John, you could probably speak on this, but playoff series for all you youngins out there was a series where a team wanted to do the hack a Shaq, and Shaq, you're not gonna think of him when you do think about his lore about the greatest free throw shooter, but when he needed it,
Yeah.
he made it count.
Made them.
He made them. Same with Rodman. There was a infamous game where they fouled a team fouled the Bulls with MJ's dynasty run. Point taken from what we talked about earlier. Rodman made them. The difference between Rodman and Shaq is that Zion is known to be a scorer. So
And here's the thing about this play too, right? That I don't know if like people thought about, but if he makes the first free throw and then he misses the second one, but the Pelicans got the rebound and scored again, they win the game, right?
Yeah.
Like if the Pelicans score on a 2-pointer, just you're playing defense. Obviously they can hit a 3, but if you're playing guarding the 3 and they score 2, they're not going to be able to get the ball a rebound. You have possession the next possession. So if he makes the first free throw and then misses the second one, but the Pelicans get the rebound, you could potentially lose the game on this one play. So to
Yeah.
me, no, it's a terrible, terrible decision. I don't, regardless of whether they won or not, whether it worked out for them.
add one more detail, or one thing that I did like, John and Jun, is that if I'm a Pelican fan, I'm kind of worried about Zion now because whenever there's going to be a clutch free throw and Zion's on the line, he's gonna have to think about this moment. So this just added to the storyline for the upcoming postseason. Can Zion close out a game?
Oh man, he shoots 66% from the field. So, and I mean, yeah, but I wouldn't do it. I mean, it worked out. So
Yeah.
results matter.
I didn't like it in the moment either. But if we're thinking about superstars on every single team, Zion might be in the top 5 list of someone that I would try it with.
Okay.
And the reason why I say this is because I guess you could talk yourself into it. Like, this man shoots like 60% from the free throw line. It's the end of the game. Obviously, he doesn't keep himself in game shape. He probably doesn't work on his game a lot. Maybe I'll try this. But the thing that I don't like is that I feel like Jason Kidd, just like that water thing, is doing too much. Like, he wants to be on the court so bad, and affect the game so bad that he had to make this decision. You know what I mean? Just trust your team. I think that's what, John, you were alluding to, and what we all don't like about this. I'm gonna move us on here. We're gonna take a short little break with a word from our sponsor.
Are you tired of constantly losing your bets on unfair gambling apps? Our sponsor, Parlay Play, has the best lines to increase your chances of winning it big. Not only does it have great lines, but it's also an awesome app with a community feel.
Use code Clinic All NBA for a deposit matchup to $100 and a free $5 game on the house. They also have a feature called Slide the Line, where users can raise or lower a line of their choosing. Pause the pod, get on your phone, and download the app now.
Pause the pod, get on the phone, and download the app. Indeed, we have to talk about Pascal Siakam since the trade deadline is coming. And apparently, this is what has been reported. Pascal Siakam has told teams he will not give a commitment to re-sign with any team that is not the Toronto Raptors. He will not give a verbal commitment whatsoever with the Pacers, the Hawks, the Kings, the Warriors, or any other team that trades for him. he wants to test out free agency. Guys, do you guys think that this is a good move by Pascal Siakam?
That's a yeah. Indeed. Go ahead.
It's tough to say just because we've seen players who get traded and then they end up signing a contract and then they're stuck in a situation where they don't like, and then they force themselves out again without testing out free agency. And I'm always an advocate of any player testing out free agency, because perfect example is when Carmelo Anthony forced his way out of Denver to the Knicks, and the Knicks had to give up all those trade assets when they could have just signed Melo during that summer, but Melo was too impatient. The thing with Siakam is that there are a lot of what ifs and there's a risk, and you know, you hope, you pray, and you send good vibes that from now on until the end of the NBA season that nothing bad happens to him, because of, you know, may God forbid something does bad happen, there goes his value. And we've also seen the examples of players not cashing out when they should. And, you know, I want to make
Like
that
Dennis Schroeder.
Like Dennis Schroeder, exactly. And if we're going to talk about the other side, why would any organization want to trade for Siakam now? Because he's not committing. And we've seen this with the Raptors, and unfortunately it was with Kawhi. They traded all those assets to get Kawhi, and even though they won a championship, they offered all those perks of Toronto. They treated him like a king, offered him, I think there was like even like this one condominium, a penthouse. They offered that him for free. The mayor offered him the keys to the city, and he just wanted to leave, which was his choice because he tested out free agency. But, you know, it just shows that you just can't get a player, trade all those assets, and hope that they're going to resign during the offseason. The risk is too high. I don't blame any organization trading for Siakam unless you're on the very, very verge of trading a contract. Warriors, I'm winking at you. You got Chris Paul. You got
Young pieces.
you got some young pieces that looks like Steve Kerr won't play them unless this summer, which is rumored to happen. You know, Steve Kerr doesn't have a contract. Just saying. Anyways, John, what do you think?
Yeah, it's always a risk. I mean, like, I think he's deserved the right to test free agency, but, you know, hopefully nothing bad happens, no injuries, nothing like major happens. But I think it's more than the money. I think he wants the ability to choose kind of where he plays next, right? Like where he wants to live, the city that he's residing in, the fans, the people, the food, the culture, whatever it may be. But I think he wants to choose that team, that city. I agree. It's very risky to do that. And it's funny that we're talking about this with the Raptors because they did that with Kawhi Leonard, right? Mm-hmm. They took a risk, they traded for him, and then they ended up, of course, they won a championship. So you ask any Toronto Raptor fan, they'll probably say it was worth it. But he ended up bolting for the Clippers, LA, because he's right close to San Diego, which is his hometown. And so there's always that risk. So to me, if I'm the Pacers or any of these teams, unless I legitimately think there's a chance that I'm going to win a championship this year with Pascal Siakam, I really am hesitant to pull that trigger.
Yeah, I agree with you both. I think this puts a bump in the road for a lot of teams trying to get Pascal Siakam. But apparently the Pacers are still engaging in talks with the Toronto Raptors to still acquire him. And the report says that the deal would somewhat go like this. It would go probably Bruce Brown and 3 first-round picks would be part of the package. So that's not the complete package, but that's part of the package. What do you guys think of Siakam with the Pacers? Is that kind of worth it to you guys?
if I'm the Pacers, those 3-round picks, I say no. And I say this with, some caution, just because I'm gonna come off as a hater, but like 4 months, 5 months into a season to determine your future, you gotta be somewhat like reserved and not just pull the trigger on a temporary fix. Like Siakam could leave over the summer, John, and you're trading 3 picks. There's a possibility. I know Pacer fans don't want to hear this, but there's a possibility next year, the year after that, or the next year even after that, where those first round picks, if they're not protected, could be pretty high.
Yeah.
Last year was just last year, and you guys were a lottery team, so
That's just too much.
okay.
Like Bruce Brown to me, he's a solid, good role player, but you could find a lot of those Bruce Brown types in the league, or even homegrown, right? But JJ's right. The 3 first-round picks are a lot. I mean, they could be high, they could be lower. It really depends on obviously how the season plays out for the team. But to give up that much with the uncertainty that Pascal Siakam might bolt after this year and lose him for nothing, to me is too high of a risk.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. And plus, like, the move alone wouldn't put you above the Celtics, above the Bucks, above the 76ers.
Yeah, true.
I think you're right after those teams. You're kind of like in the Cleveland Cavs kind of area after the top 3. And that's like losing your future too. And also having an unsecure future with Siakam, with the way that he's talking about this. I'm gonna move us on here to our next topic and talk about Trae Young a little bit. DeMarcus Cousins had some words for him, who had a rocky relationship towards the end of his career in Sacramento, or end of his time in Sacramento, and he gave some advice to Trae Young. He said, "If I'm Trae Young, I'd get ahead of the curve. The situation I'm afraid of with Trae is that he'll remain in Atlanta too long, and then all of a sudden he becomes the villain, and he's the scapegoat. I know from experience." Does Boogie have some truth to what he's saying here? Do you think this is good advice for Trae Young?
Wow. So I guess my question is, like, DeMarcus Cousins, what was he was talking about? He said he relates to this, that he can relate to what Trae Young is. Like, what team is he talking about? The Kings?
Yeah.
Oh, in
Sacramento
Sacramento.
Kings.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Yeah. They were blaming him for the Sacramento Kings' poor performances, basically,
Right.
and wanted him.
I mean, like, to me, this is kind of just applies to any focal point star emphasis of any team, right? The number one of any team. Like, you're going to get the praise when you win, and you're going to get the blame when you lose, whether or not you're actually the person who should be blamed. To me, that just comes with the territory with being the best player on the team, right? So, like, if Trae Young were to go to a different team outside of Atlanta, and they don't do well, he's going to get the blame still.
Mm-hmm.
Like, to me, I mean, I mean, I don't know. To me, it's just, if it's going to apply everywhere. So I don't know. Like, the advice to me is just whatever. It's just like throwaway. I don't know. Are you off base here? Or?
What do you think, Jay?
I think I can't believe I'm saying this, but I think DeMarcus Cousins is speaking some gospel. It's not entirely true, but there is some truth to it. Just because Trae Young has been in the league since 2018. He has seen more lows than highs as an Atlanta Hawk, and the help that he has been asking to get, it hasn't been working, whether you believe that help was good or not. For example, DeJounte Murray, who was also on the trade block. I'm always an advocate of loyalty, but the loyalty has to be reciprocated by the organization. And right now, I feel that there's some animosity between Trae Young and the Atlanta Hawks. So, as a basketball fan, I'm gonna come off as a hater, but yeah, leave Trae Young, demand a trade, cause havoc, create some pod content for myself, John,
There you
June, and
go.
Sammy, and RJ, and hopefully you don't come out west and compete against our teams. But if you do compete out west, there is the rumor, of course it's a dream rumor, that this summer, if the San Antonio Spurs gets Trae Young and Siakam, because they do have the cap space with Wemby and Pop, that would be a dangerous team.
I've heard of that too. And you know, if I'm Trae Young and I have that choice, I'm going to San Antonio to play with Wembenyama. And you know,
Oh.
I think that Trae Young's a good player. He really is when he wants to be. And I think that's the big knock on him, is that maybe his effort isn't 100% all the time. I mean, he's had quotes, right? Like saying, oh yeah, the regular season games don't matter, like come find me during the playoffs. Like quotes like that kind of make you the villain already. So I don't think it's that he's staying too long. I think it's just the attitude and the effort surrounding that team with Trae Young. Cause like DeJounte Murray, his attitude, we've seen that kind of
He
go
didn't act
awry
like that-
during.
Yeah, he didn't act like that with Pop, dude.
So I mean, there's different reasons why he may be viewed as a villain outside of the fact that they're not winning. And I think maybe a change in location would be good for Trae Young. So it's not really like good advice to me per se from Boogie, but I would like to see Trae Young move on. With that being said, that's actually all we have for tonight's pod. I want to thank you two for being on. JJ, thanks for being on, man.
Thanks, everybody. I appreciate you all.
She know she love Jay because
John, thanks for being on.
Hey, thank you, everybody. Have a good one.
I'm Detective John.
And special shout out to Sammy, who's missing right now.
Sammy takes it all the way.
And shout out to our video producer, RJ. Check out our YouTube channel. Remember to rate, subscribe, and review. Like us on our Facebook group page, The Clinic All NBA Podcast, and follow us on Twitter at Clinic All NBA. I'm Rosa Panta. This is The Clinic All NBA Podcast. Come find us wherever you get your podcasts.
And we're off.
Hey.
How long did we run
Good stuff.
for?
Like